After giving thoughts on videos to work on, I wanted to do a video on game systems. I already did a few videos on other game systems, but I wanted to do other ones I haven't done. I think this is good timing to do one of these since summer has begun, and I want a nostalgia feel to it. However, I'm not going to go through all of them, so from every summer until I finally end it, I'll be going through the game systems I had. So for that, I'm going to start off with Game Boy Advance. Game Boy Advance came out in June 2001, 5 months before the GameCube came out. I have talked about this before in an episode of Media Memories, but the Game Boy Advance was the first handheld system I ever owned and replaced the Game Boy systems because they discontinued, and I got the system for Christmas in 2002. Game Boy Advance had 3 models, the original, the SP, and the Micro. I have gotten the SP version. I got it at a special occasion, and I have to say, I like it more than the original model. It was foldable, it felt comfortable, and had a backlit screen, which is better. The Game Boy Micro was one I didn't get during its life cycle, and the reason why is because it came out right when the Nintendo DS was already out, hence why the marketing sales. So yeah, that's all the Game Boy Advance systems. Let's get to the games I had when I was a kid. First GBA game I had was Shrek Castle in the Castle. The gameplay consists of platformer and beat 'em up. For first game I owned on the GBA, it was actually decent. I didn't beat the game, sadly. I only got to the dragon part. I could have finished it by 2 more levels. Either way, this was the start of getting Game Boy Advance games. The second game on GBA was, and that is, Scooby-Doo movie. Yeah, because I was a fan of the movie when I was a kid, so I had to get the game. I swear, this is the last time I'm talking about one of these. I actually bought it at a place called KB Toys, which they discontinued that back then, but they had one at a mall. Unfortunately, I didn't beat this game and I got lost so much. Yeah, I was young, so I couldn't know where to go. And that was the only Scooby-Doo GBA I ever owned. I didn't own Monsters Unleashed, Mystery Mayhem, or any of the other ones. Next up is Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius, which I do remember watching the movie and the show, so naturally I had to pick it up. I mentioned the birthday memories video, but I got it as a birthday present. The game was okay. Again, I didn't beat the game. Speaking of another GBA game for a birthday present, here's Cat in a Hat, part of the 2003 movie. Great. Yeah, this game wasn't good. I really should have gotten the console version. Let's move on to Pixar, and I actually had 2 games, Finding Nemo and Monsters Inc. Yeah, for some reason, I got Monsters Inc. game after I got Finding Nemo. Both games are okay, and once again, I didn't beat those games. Next up, Cartoon Network Block Party. Got that for Christmas. I don't know why I got this in the collection. I wasn't like a die-hard Cartoon Network fan, but okay. It features characters from Cartoon Network shows like Johnny Bravo, Cow and Chicken, Ed, Edd n Eddy, and Courage the Cowardly Dog. The gameplay is the same as Mario Party. Yeah, this game I got, and I could have got Mario Party games in the first place. But yeah, it's alright. Next up, Nicktoons Unite, which, again, I could have gotten the console version. I like the concept of bringing characters from SpongeBob, Fairly OddParents, Jimmy Neutron, and Danny Phantom. I've only played this game like 3 times, I never got back into it. Which, by the way, that was the only SpongeBob game on Game Boy Advance I owned. I didn't know the other ones. By the way, that was the last GBA game, and the last third-party game I owned is the Muppets On With The Show. I remember getting this game along with the SP, but I will say, it was enjoyable to play. It's got different game segments, which, yeah, a simple game that I played as a kid. Now I move on to the first-party games, and there's only 3 games. I'll explain why. First one is Donkey Kong Country. Oh yeah, one of my favorite games. This version I ever played before I didn't know the Super Nintendo version exists. So many good times playing this game. And the last 2 GBA games, Pokemon Fire Red, Leaf Green, and Pokemon Emerald. Yeah, I was a die-hard Pokemon fan at the time, and these 2 were my favorites on the GBA. So many great memories playing them. I am going to talk about these games again in future videos. So yeah, that is all the games I had. Not a great collection, but I was young at the time before I remember critical reception and popularity of games. However, there were so many first-party games I could have gotten as a kid. I mentioned I got Emerald, but not Pokemon Ruby Sapphire. I didn't get those games during the years, but I will talk about them. Pokemon Pinball Ruby and Sapphire would have been great because I used to have Pokemon Pinball and Game Boy Color. A couple of Legend of Zelda games I could have had, a couple of Kirby games, a couple of Metroid games, Mario Kart Super Circuit, which would have been the first one to play before Double Dash, Wario Land 4, which would have been nice since I used to like Wario Land 3, and of course, the Super Mario Advance games. That would have been one thing I would have gotten. There's like 4 games, and one of them had Yoshi's Island, a game that was on the SNES, I remember when I was little. That could have easily been the one I wanted. But hey, at least they finally made them to the Switch Online service. But yeah, so many first-party games I could have gotten, and some third-party games like Sonic. I had good memories with the Game Boy Advance. It was the last handheld system during my childhood before the DS. I had less games during my life, but now GBA games are now on Switch Online service to play. Game Boy Advance was underappreciated because I love GameCube more, and I like DS even more than the GBA, but it was part of nostalgia. Also, I didn't mention the Game Boy Advance video part. Well, no worries everyone, because I'm actually going to do a feature video on them. That's right, it will happen. I'll try to do that maybe the next couple years. I'll give it more time, I'm not in a rush. But yeah, that is all for the video on Game Boy Advance. Let me know what game system videos you want me to do. I will see you all for the next video in July.